Hey, my name is Matt. I'm a full-time reseller. I specialize in men's clothing, and I mostly sell on eBay. I sell on Poshmark as well, do some local selling. And this is going to be a what sold video. I don't have a specific timeline. I'm just going to go through my phone and look at some recent sales, show you what's sold for good money, not so good money, mistakes, big wins, small wins, and on. Try to give you some kind of constructive idea of why I bought what I did and whether or not it lived up to expectations. So we're going to start with Poshmark. So I cross-list all of my clothing onto Poshmark as well. I don't use any third-party software. I just do it by hand. Cross-listing on Poshmark is very easy, very quick. It is a little bit tedious to have to share your entire closet, ideally once a day, although I don't always live up to that, but I think it's worth it. You do around 30% the sales volume on Poshmark that you do on eBay, and sometimes it can make a big difference. So this is an item that was in a former video. This is the Lion King hat that I got for free from a big lot of free stuff that I got off of OfferUp. So it sold for $7. Poshmark charges the customer around $7 shipping. So they paid about $14 for that. And it was new with tags, as you can see here. This is a Vineyard Vines polo. I know Vineyard Vines is a very popular brand. I think it is overrated. I've not had great luck making quick flips on Vineyard Vines, and most of the stuff that I've sold over the years has not really been for that much money. And if you go in and you look at the sell-through rate, a lot of the times it's really not that high. I haven't checked it in a while, but this was a shirt I bought, I think when I still lived in LA. I was still using the old photo background, so it sat around for a long time. Just a basic polo shirt, and it sold for $8 plus the $7 that the customer paid for it. So I typically actually don't pick up Vineyard Vines unless I can find it for dirt cheap. Here's a really basic pair of Nike running shorts. This is another example of something that I wouldn't necessarily pick up, except that I got this from a bag sale. So there was a local thrift store that was running this continuous everyday deal where they had a big pile of clothing, and you could fill up a plastic bag, like a grocery bag, for $5. So cost of goods was super low, and I got a lot of this cheaper activewear from that bag sale. This sold for $9, obviously, again, plus the $7. So something like that, I probably wouldn't pick up, although if I went in and ran that style code, I could be wrong. 519-839-010. So Nike clothing is like Nike shoes in that you can find that style code on the majority of Nike pieces. And when you look up the code, it'll give you the proper title, all the relevant keywords that you need to list it. Some of the stuff that looks really basic like this can actually be worth more than you would anticipate just because it's something specific that people are looking for. And if it's something discontinued or rare, even if it looks kind of pedestrian, it can still sell for good money. I don't think this was one of those cases. Another bag sale item, Resting Brunch Face. This is on a good brand. Affliction is actually a good brand that I recommend. It's not 100% sell through, but it's not that far off last time I checked. And this was a swim thing, I think. Wasn't quite sure how to categorize this, so I just threw it up. $5. It's from a local bar here in San Diego. Look at these terrible photos. This is a pair of floral, really good keyword there, Levi's jeans. Floral refers to any flower pattern, repeating flower pattern on clothing. Floral is different than flower pattern, which is a retro or vintage style that was popular in the 60s with the big cartoon flowers. This is my understanding. That's a new piece of information to me, so that could be wrong. Here's a Robert Graham shirt that I sold as part of a bundle. Robert Graham shirts are good. They're not always great. Robert Graham is a little bit overhyped. It is a really good brand, and if you can find these flip cuff and flip collar shirts, you can do quite well with them. Don't price them up unless there's something really, really special, or unless you're willing to sit on them for a while. This sold for $35. It's just a basic piece. Some of their special edition shirts are worth hundreds of bucks. So if you find one of those, definitely don't underprice it. But my strategy with Robert Graham is to price them down. $35 is around the median price. I would actually probably usually go just a little bit lower. Here's another bag sale item that I had up on eBay for a long, long time. It's not a desirable brand, but this sold in a bundle to the same guy that bought the Robert Graham shirt. 88 trash brand. It did have this tie-dye thing going on, and that the black cross is velvet. This aesthetic for shirt can actually still holds some resale value, although it's not as popular as once it was. Tommy Bahama is, in my experience, in my opinion, nowhere close to as good of a brand as people claim that it is. Some of it does sell okay. If you get it for really, really cheap, I would get it. If it's something like this, if it's something with a big embroidered design on the back, some of them can be worth more money. But even then, some of those can still take quite a while to sell, and they may not sell for as much as you think. This was a bag sale item, and it had flaws with it, which probably accounts for the low sale price, 17 bucks plus 7. With those big embroidered shirts, I would go on a piece-by-piece basis. I would not universally buy them to sell them. Some of them are overrepresented on the market. There's a lot of supply. Some of them are more rare. You can sell them for upwards of 50 bucks. Tommy Bahama as a general brand, I just personally don't like it. Here's a good illustration of one of the reasons why I really like Poshmark. I'm not going to go into each of these items, but this was a bundle that sold to a viewer, actually, so hello Jaja if you're watching. So these were items that on their own had been sitting around in the closet for a while and weren't going to fetch all that much resale value, but someone came in and created what's called a bundle, so it's basically just a shopping cart, and I have my Poshmark store set up so it automatically gives you a 20% discount if you bundle up more than one item. And she was able to get this stuff for pretty cheap. I think I actually gave her a deeper discount. And I was able to move quite a bit of product in one purchase. That typically does not happen on eBay. There's the functionality built in for that to happen on eBay. It is possible, but it doesn't happen nearly as much as it does on Poshmark, because that's how Poshmark is built, to encourage people to buy multiple items from your store. Here's a piece that had been sitting around for a long time. Burberry's vintage Burberry. So Burberry, of course, the contemporary stuff can be worth hundreds of dollars, but this is the vintage tag, Burberry's, plural. And this was a size 54L sport coat, wool sport coat. And I overestimated how much these were worth when I bought it. I hung on to it for more than a year because I had it priced up too high. Dropped the price way down and cross-listed it on Poshmark, and it did sell. So it was this houndstooth pattern. Let's see if we can zoom in. That pattern is called houndstooth. I think that's houndstooth. There's a whole family of patterns for suits and sport coats that look like this. Pretty sure it's houndstooth. It's a houndstooth window pane or houndstooth check. Houndstooth stuff, that's a good keyword to know. Some of it can be worth quite a bit of money. This overall has become my strategy for selling suits and sport coats and blazers. I used to refer to it as formal wear, and then I was chastised in the comments section because formal wear apparently refers to tuxedos and black tie stuff. So it's not formal wear. Suits and jackets. The sell-through on that market overall, the whole picture is that it is pretty low. So there's not that much when it comes to suits and jackets that is 100% plus sell-through. However, a lot of it is overpriced. So if you can come in with a desirable brand, a piece that people want to buy, and price it under market, noticeably under market, you can turn that into a quick flip. That strategy is pretty commonly used with hard goods, but it's not really used quite as much with clothing. But something like shoes or suits, jackets, higher dollar stuff that has a more specific market that's looking for a suit from that brand in that size, you can winnow it down to a pretty good idea of where the bottom of the market lies. And if you come in and you undercut it, you give people a really good deal, you can flip it pretty quick. And you can turn a $15 investment in a two-piece suit into $100 profit if you are willing to do that. That's still a really healthy return, and that $100 that you get quick, to me, is preferable to getting 150 or 200 that I would have to wait an entire year to realize if I priced it at the middle of the market, which is seemingly what a lot of people do. The other side of that strategy is to take valuable niche stuff like that and price it way, way up high. Hit the top of the market instead of the bottom, and simply wait on it. There's a channel I absolutely love called Thrift Fever. I have learned so much from that channel, and that's his business model. He finds higher end stuff, both men's and women's, and he just prices for the moon. He prices at the max of what he thinks he can plausibly get for it, and he makes great sales, and he makes great money, and he's super knowledgeable, has a very different business model than mine. So if you're more sympathetic to that kind of an idea, definitely check his channel out. It's Thrift Fever. I'll put a link in the description. Here is a pair of Levi's 501XXs, which I've discussed in a couple of videos, that sold for 25 bucks. They had stains on them, had a hole in the crotch. This is part of the bundle that I got from the guy off OfferUp that I got all the denim from. So that was a very quick flip. And that same guy sold me this, a vintage Polo Ralph Lauren flip cuff denim jacket, zip front, from the 80s, I think, that sold for $105, and that sold pretty quick. Obviously, I had it up on eBay as well. This one I also cross-listed on Depop. So why was this so desirable, and why did it sell so quickly? Polo Ralph Lauren is a bit of an overexposed brand. There's a ton of supply of polo stuff online for sale. Vintage polo stuff does sell for a little more typically, and it's in a little bit more demand. However, there is still a ton of vintage Polo Ralph Lauren pieces that are available. A vintage Polo Ralph Lauren denim piece narrows it down a little bit more, and there are fewer of those, and they're worth more just by merit of the fact that they're denim, and denim is more collectible. Denim jackets, even fewer, and flip cuff denim jackets with this particular aesthetic. This fits as something that someone in their 20s would buy. So I knew that I could get away with selling it for more. Also, if you watch that video, I go in and I looked for an exact comp and actually found one, which usually doesn't happen, and it had sold for over 100 bucks. So I knew that I could price it up and get away with it and still get a quick flip out of it, and that's what happened. Here's a great example of the importance of taking good photos. So this is a Sims shirt, a brand that I have discussed before, and it's a collaboration piece between Sims and this other brand, G Loomis, which is a fishing brand that does equipment but typically does not do clothing. So this was a rare piece that was going to be really desirable to a fly fisherman. And I had it up for a very long time, and I couldn't really figure out why, and I looked closer at the listing, and the photos were awful. So I took it out of these bins, steamed it after having folded it up, and let it sit in the bin for a long time. Took these better photos with my updated photo method, and it sold almost immediately. I didn't change the price at all. It sold for 35 bucks. This will be another illustration of my premise of making quick flips out of suits, suit jackets, and sport coats, blazers that you otherwise maybe could get away with pricing up higher. This is an Armani piece made in Italy. That's one of the good Armani tags, and it sold for 45. I got it for 8, so I could have asked 100 for it, and someone eventually would have bought it for around that because it was a high quality piece. It was wool silk linen blend, so it was desirable fabric, and I could have asked 75, 100, up to, I don't know, 110, 115. Someone would have snatched it up, but I dropped the price and it sold really quick. Suits, jackets are very space consuming, especially if you hang them up because you don't want them to get wrinkled. So I have a rack in my room, and I am now just wanting to move the stuff out. Let me show you a local sale that I did on OfferUp. This is an item that I got for free off of OfferUp and listed it on Craigslist and back on OfferUp, and someone came in and bought it for 40 bucks. It was this really heavy cast iron thing, an arbor press, which I don't really know how it works, but it looked to my eye like something that was worth money, so I jetted over there and picked it up. It sold within 2 days for 40 bucks. Easy breezy. OfferUp is a great source of income if you are not thrifting, as I am not. I am choosing not to source from thrift stores because I don't want to go indoors due to COVID. We are now into the eBay sales. I got a big lot of board games off of OfferUp for $25 in total. A lot of them were vintage. This was one of them. It sold for 30 bucks, including free shipping. I do free shipping on most things. And it was a game that I thought was incomplete when I opened it just because this was all that was in there. But that's the nature of the game. It's a dice game that uses these little plastic pigs as dice. And depending on the position that the pigs fall, it gives you different numeric values. So that sold pretty quick, 30 bucks. Vintage board games can be worth quite a lot. Here's a lot of vintage audio tapes that I sold for 21 bucks, 22 cents. I thought they were going to be worth more than they were. I thought I was going to be able to sell them individually, but I was not. So I wouldn't necessarily make that sale again. Here is another thing that I got for free off of OfferUp. It was a suit, two-piece suit from an undesirable-ish brand, and sold it for 34 bucks plus free shipping. Went out pirate ship, spent 7.5 bucks on it. So some really decent profit there. This is another game that I got in that big lot. It's not vintage and it's not worth a whole lot. I wouldn't necessarily advocate picking this up. Sold for 21 bucks, 99 cents. Had to go out in a medium flat rate, which cost 13, so I didn't really make that much. Lesson learned on this one. This is what's called a Seersucker jacket. I'll show you what Seersucker looks like. I'm sure you've seen that before. It's a textured striped fabric, lightweight cotton, very popular in the summer. And this is a brand that is not that desirable. I thought that the Seersucker would compensate for the brand, but it didn't. It took a long time to sell. It sold for 25 bucks for free shipping, plus I just wanted to get rid of it. So don't recommend. Seersucker stuff in Brooks Brothers can be worth great money. This is a garage sale item. Got it for $3 and it sold for $75 after a little bit of haggling. I think it tests electrical components. Really easy to look this stuff up. It was only this big. It came in its own box. Went out in a padded flat rate because it was in a box. Easy money. If you can find smaller electronics like this, even obscure stuff, it is probably the easiest way to make money reselling because the demand is so high and not a lot of guesswork. Same with video games. That's why people like selling hard goods, because there's not all that much ambiguity or seeming ambiguity as there is in clothing. This is a baby wrap. It's like a blanket, really long, thin blanket, or long, narrow blanket rather, that's used for mothers to carry their babies in, and this I got for free. Sold for 18 bucks plus free shipping, and it was a fast sale. Got this from the same garage sale that I got that electrical tester from. It ended up not really working properly, but still sold for 30 bucks. It is a police scanner. There is a lot of money potentially in vintage t-shirts. It's not my specialty, but when I find stuff that is very obviously worth money, then I will pick it up. This is a t-shirt from Farm Aid 4, which had a lot of big names on it. A music festival, I think, that had Willie Nelson. Yeah, Willie Nelson, John Mellencamp, Neil Young. This was just a total no-brainer. That's a vintage tag. It did have a hole in it and a big stain, but it was single stitch, I think, although I didn't see a photo of the stitching. Sold for 63 bucks, 72 cents, had it listed for, I think, 99, and just took a best offer. I sold 2 of these scrub tops to one person. Medical scrubs, tops and bottoms, have a great market for them. They're not all 100% sell-through, but the market is generally strong, especially for new with tags. And there was a thrift store locally that was doing Dollar Day, and someone had donated about 200 scrub pieces, and no one had bought them, so they were all $1. I snatched up every single new with tag scrub piece that I could get my hands on. I have them in a big cardboard box in the other room, and they were a pain to list, but it's an example of what I was talking about in the last video of a bulk purchase that you make one time and then it just slowly pays out over time. So scrub tops are generally actually worth looking at. Some scrub brands, even if they're used, have high demand for them, and I don't remember any off the top of my head. I apologize. It's a good category to think about because not a lot of resellers pick up scrubs, I don't think. This is a new with tags Starbucks anniversary glass mug with gold flake that I got from the same garage sale as the police scanner and as that electrical tester thing. This sold right away for 30 bucks. Starbucks mugs, surprisingly, can be worth quite a bit and have a strong market. This one is going to be an example of me being a bad reseller. I spotted this lot of 107 Pokemon cards on OfferUp for $5 right as it was posted, and drove half an hour down there to a very distant part of town to pick them up, thinking the whole way that I was a big asshole for buying this lot of Pokemon cards for only $5 from this poor soul. And as I was driving down there, I was thinking, he's going to be like 11 years old. I'm taking advantage because I'm going to make so much money off of this. And I was the big idiot. It's from, I thought, for some reason I wanted to call this the Pokemon Shining Path edition. That would not be good. So it's Shining Fates. And I just did some really, really cursory research on my phone before I went down there, and I wasn't thorough enough, and these are worth nothing. So bought them for $5. Took me 45 minutes to an hour to drive down there and back, and it was just a complete waste of time. Here's a pair of 560s, which I have, again, talked about a couple times. This was, I believe, a pair that I got off of Poshmark. And it had some big stains on the pockets. Stain on the leg there. Another stain on the cuff. Some flaws on that part of the leg. Another stain. So they were covered in gunk. Still flipped for 40 bucks without having to wait for that long. This buyer did not end up paying for this, so I have an unpaid item case open, but it's a good teaching example because Ivy League school clothing tends to have really strong sell-through, and I don't know the actual numbers off the top of my head. I'm sure they vary from school to school, but Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, I know maybe those aren't technically Ivy League, but famous schools, people will buy the apparel, especially vintage stuff. Like I got a vintage Yale sweater, crew neck sweater. It flipped for 35 bucks right out the door, pretty much as soon as I listed it. You can't always pull that off, but definitely look the stuff up if you find it. Very similar lesson to be learned from breweries. So brewery apparel, not all of them are worth money, but if you can find stuff from specific breweries, they will have their own sell-through rate that you can calculate. Look it up on eBay. And this was a bag sale item from Little Dog Brewing Company in New Jersey. Another garage sale item, it's a point of use tankless water heater. It was new, which I could tell because it still had the cellophane on the cord, and the person that sold it to me said it was new. The seller definitely played hardball and wouldn't haggle down from 35 bucks that they were originally asking, but I paid it knowing that the sell-through on this was really good and that I would stand to make a little bit of money. This was undercutting the market at $119.99. If you watched that OfferUp video, you will recognize these. There's two plush toys from Disney that weren't worth all that much, but 16 bucks for free. In a previous video, I talked about buying this knife block from a garage sale, and the thing that I was most attracted to was 3 Henkel's knives, which is a great knife brand. But these ended up selling much faster. These sold for 24 bucks 99 cents, so I compensated there for the $10 cost of goods for the knife block. Got these 514s in a bundle off of Poshmark. These sold for 29 bucks 74 cents. 514s are a relatively desirable cut of Levi's. Not 100% sell-through, but you can get away with flipping them for 30 bucks. These I bought for $10, including 2 Girls Gone Wild tapes that are going to just be released into the wild at some point, because there's no way to sell them without breaching the terms of use of all of these selling platforms. So these are anime tapes sold for 32 bucks. I had them listed for 40 and someone tried to cherry pick a couple of them out, and I held strong and said no, and they bought the whole bundle for 32. So you have to know when to do that, when to capitulate and when not to capitulate, but I knew that this listing was getting a lot of eyeballs on it and that I could really afford to say no to this guy and someone would still be interested in buying it. If I had been sitting on these for a year and a half, I would have acquiesced. Here's those overalls that I got for free, kids overalls, sold for 14 bucks, 99 cents. And they sold really quick. One of my favorite sales from this period, an Arc'teryx merino wool beanie, also called a toque, that I got off of OfferUp for, it might have been 15. And it had holes in it. There's the hole. Sold right away for $45 after listing it for $75. And I priced it up this high because my friend Dave sold one of these that was a little nicer than this for, God, what was it? It was like $110 that he just put it up for auction, and it precipitated a bidding war. Ended up selling for $115. So Arc'teryx stuff, I've talked about it before. It's just a phenomenal seller, and apparently the beanies are a hot item. There's another one of those board games. It was pretty big. It was a pain to ship. I had to cut down a larger cardboard box, which was pretty time consuming, but it sold for 40 bucks. Here's a remote that I got for $1. It sold fast for $8.50. Here's a fishing reel that was in a previous video. It sold for $40 after quite a bit of communication with the buyer. And I misspelled the brand name, so it's not G Shimano, it is Shimano. If you find fishing gear from Shimano, some of it is cheap crap, but a lot of it is worth quite a bit. This is an older fishing reel, and it had a flaw with it where the free spool didn't work. So pretty decent deal. This is the Wii bundle that I got for $5. It sold for $125. Shipped out FedEx, I think. Yeah, FedEx. No, UPS. It shipped UPS for around 20 or 25 bucks. And got a message from the buyer saying that this board wasn't working, this step board. And it turns out that she was using old batteries. So this is another brewery shirt. It's from a local place called Lost Cause Meadery. They make mead, I guess, for people who have not heard of beer before. Stay Lost. It sold for 17 bucks. Here's some blue hair dye that, again, I got for free off of OfferUp. Sold really quick for 10 bucks. This was a scrub top that was in that same OfferUp haul, the free stuff. Here's an example, I guess, of a good brand for scrub tops. Used scrub tops. Noel Asmar, sold right away for 15. Levi's 560s that sold for 42. Oh, this was a fiasco. I sold the 560s, and then I shipped them the wrong pair of jeans. I shipped them a lesser pair of Levi's 514s that were also light wash. So I had to send them the new jeans, and I also included $5 cash as an apology. So thankfully I didn't get negative feedback. This is one of the rare pieces, clothing pieces, that I bought just based on aesthetics and eyeballing alone. I didn't look it up before I bought it. It is a button-down shirt, or button-up shirt rather, in a Southwestern Aztec pattern. Those are three very, very important keywords to know. And it was a pearl snap. Roper is a pretty uneven brand. It's not that great. Don't know what the cowboy turtle thing is. But just based on how it looked, I knew that this would sell. Stuff that looks like this, especially if it's vintage, is really in demand. Here's another free scrub top that I got in that OfferUp lot. The brand is Barco, not Verite. Another OfferUp freebie, sold for 10 bucks, 25 cents. And of course, the nude Barbies, sold at a steal for 13 bucks, 64 cents. I think I had them listed for 15, because it was just a hunch that they were going to be worth something for arts and crafts purposes, which I think I included in the keywords. Viewers have told me that this one was possibly worth more, although looking at it, I don't think it has all of its original parts. It looks like it's Frankenstein. I don't remember who that is. I'm sorry. That's some person that's famous. And maybe that could have been worth 20 or 30 bucks, but oh well. Land's End is a decent brand. Some of the stuff has high sell-through. In fact, women's yoga pants actually have 100% sell-through as of a few months ago, last time I looked up that piece of information. The reason I bought this is not because it's Land's End, it's because A, it's a really interesting color of plaid, and there's another houndstooth. Check, I guess technically it's a check, not a plaid. But it's Baird McNutt Irish linen. Baird McNutt typically has really, really high sell-through. They made a lot of pieces for J. Crew before J. Crew went belly up. And I knew that this was going to be worth something. Sold it for $69. Nice. Big surprise here. Levi's 560s sold for 50 bucks. Here's the bear that I got as part of that offer up lot. Sold right away for $7. Here's one of the fishing reels from my fishing video. It sold for 80 bucks. And as I discussed in that video, it probably sold for that much despite having stuff wrong with it because it was loaded with braided line. This was from a garage sale. I should say in that whole video how much I got it for. I think it was dirt cheap. Sold for 70 bucks. I really phoned this one in too. I didn't look up any of the specs or really include any description at all. It was pretty, I was actually embarrassed. Yeah, here we go. New and open box, includes everything shown in photos. This was in a video way, way back that probably none of you really saw. It's a vintage dive mask that was new and real glass and sold for 51 bucks after quite a few best offers turned down and a lot of interest. So I would definitely pick this one up again. US Divers Go. I think that'll do it. That is the highlights of stuff that has sold for probably, I don't know, that seemed like maybe 2 or 3 weeks worth of stuff. You may have noticed, I noticed, there's not that much clothing represented in those sales, or at least not proportionate to how much of it constitutes my inventory. That's because I haven't been thrifting. It's because I haven't really been sourcing clothing except for when I can find it on Poshmark, which is much lower volume than what I would get at a thrift store. So I have been doing a lot more garage sales and picking up clothing as I find it, but you're mostly going to find hard goods at garage sales. So I've been supplementing my diet with hard goods a little bit more than I normally would. So I hope that gives you some ideas of what to buy, what to look for, and good luck. Thanks for watching.